The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Every year, the parents of Jesus went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up as usual for the festival. When the festival was ended and they started to return, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but his parents did not know it. Assuming that he was in a group of travelers, they went a day's journey. Then they started to look for him among their relatives and friends. When they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem to search for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Child, why have you treated us like this? Look, your father and I have been searching for you in great anxiety." He said to them, "Why were you searching for me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?" But they did not understand what he said to them. Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. His mother treasured all these things in her heart, and Jesus increased in wisdom and in years, and in favor with God and human beings. The Gospel of the Lord. Today we celebrate the feast of the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And everyone, or most everyone, is interested with family history. Knowing where we come from, knowing about our ancestors. We see it with the people who did their genealogy, trying to trace back their ancestors. Some of them because they want an Indian card, but people want to know where they come from, where they origin from, how life was for them with their ancestors. And nowadays, with the new technology, there's these new kits of DNA testing so that we can know our background, our DNA background. So there's a fascination of that. There's a fascination of all histories of family, all the kinds of anecdotes and stories of families. The mishaps and the adventures of people throughout the history. And the Bible is full of those kinds of stories, family stories. In the first reading, we have a reading from the book of Samuel, where we hear about the story of that prophet. We see how he was born in a very special way, because Anna was not able to conceive a son, and she was very saddened by this. She was praying in the temple day in and day out, all the time, to the point that it was annoying to the priest in the temple that she was there. And finally, God answered her call. God answered her request. He gave her a son. And as we see in today's reading, she realizes that that son, that child that she received, is a gift and a loan. It's not hers to keep. It's a favor from the Lord. And she entrusts him back to the Lord. She promises to give him back to the Lord when he is ready to offer him to the Lord, to the service of the Lord. Samuel will be the prophet that will bring about the kings in Israel. You will appoint Saul to be the first king, and when God doesn't want Saul anymore, you will appoint David. Samuel will be one of the great prophets in the Old Testament. In the reading of the Gospel, we see the Holy Family going to the same temple. No, not the same temple. Because it was another temple back then, in another place, actually. Because it's David's son that built the temple of Jerusalem. But in any case, Mary and Joseph bring Jesus to the temple, as is custom. They do what they have to do in their family life of Hebrews, of Jews, of back 2,000 years ago. And we see that little adventure that Jesus decides to stay behind. Jesus wants to talk with the priests and the scribes and teachers in the temple. He worries his parents, of course. He worries Mary and Joseph. Can you imagine the anxiety in their hearts? I'm sure you can imagine it a bit. Can you imagine an even bigger anxiety because Jesus was not just a regular child? They knew he was the Son of God, the promised Messiah, and they lost him. That's another history, another anecdote from a family. But all these anecdotes that we have in the Bible are there to help us realize what we hear in the second reading. We are God's children. We should be called children of God. The Father loves us. We're all part of that family, that great family of the children of God. We are sons and daughters of God in Jesus, the only begotten Son. And the feast that we celebrate today, yes, is the feast of the family in which Jesus grew up. But it is our feast as well because we're part of that family. Mary was given to us as a mother by Jesus himself on the cross. We're celebrating our feast. We're celebrating our family as children of God. And I invite us to develop in our life the openness of hearts, the gratitude towards God that we see in the many stories of the families in the Bible. When we receive something from God, are we grateful like Anna was? Do we recognize that it is a gift from God? Are we interested in learning more and more about God like Jesus when he was 12 years old? All those kinds of attitudes are to grow in our hearts, to really live as children of God. And may this feast today help us in realizing more and more that we are children of God, that he loves us so much, and that we are called to be with him forever.